Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. I was thinking about this after yesterday's podcast about the 308 AK. There have been 5.56 AKs for years. They have now come back into vogue and being popular again, mostly because the AR-15s are everywhere and everybody has that caliber already. And it makes sense. That you would want a 5.56 AK. I have had two of them. One of them was stolen, unfortunately. I have a Arsenal SLR 106, and I love it to death. It is one of my favorite rifles. I love everything about it. It uses 5.56 AK mags, which, again, because I'm an AK guy, I prefer the toe-in mag. However, Palmetto State Armory is now producing one just like my NPAP that was stolen, that will take an AR magazine. And for people just getting into the AK world, this is kind of cool. Now you can get into the AK, get the feel. The only thing I think is really different, and I agree with why they would do it, I just think it, as an AK purist, it's kind of but I still want one. On their AK, I believe it has a bolt catch, which will stop on the last round. Most AKs will not do that. I've been looking for followers for my 5.56, my Arsenal, so that it would hold the bolt open just so I would know. In general, though, it's weird, and I don't know how to explain it other than through training. When you fire an AK, you know when you're almost out, and you won't get into a firefight or continue one on without doing a tactical reload. I can't explain it any more than that. If you pay attention when you're shooting to the weight of your rifle with a loaded magazine, there's a point in that, even with an AR, you know you're getting low, but you're waiting for that bolt to stop and you feel that momentum stop and shift. The AK does that, but what happens is you end up with that false sense of the last round where you get the click bang or click and no bang because you're empty. So I see the value in it. It's great. I don't necessarily use it when I'm in an AK mode, I guess is how I could put it. It's something I've trained around enough to where I know where I need to swap my mag. It's not 100% reliable, but it's, I would say, 95% reliable. And the only way I could tell you is it's within 3 to 5 rounds that I know that I'm about to run dry, and I'll swap if I need to, if I feel like I'm in that situation. I think the other thing that's really cool about the 5.56 AK from Palmetto State Armory is if you have, like my Arsenal, when it originally came with the original stock, it doesn't have an original stock anymore. It has an M4 stock adapter, so it's adjustable for length of pull. But I do that to all my AKs because I hate the Warsaw pack length. It always makes me have my nose in the dust cover, and it's just something that bothers me. It's a minor thing. I can get around it if I need to, but if I have a choice to make the rifle fit me, which is one of my favorite people that I think I watch all the time, Robski at AKOU, he mentions this: make the rifle fit the user, not the user fit the rifle. And with the M4 stock adapters, if you do actually wear body armor and you train in body armor, you really like to be able to adjust your length of pull at the beginning of a session, especially if you're going to do like house clearing drills where you want a shorter, compact package as you can get. I can tell you that if you're using a rifle for house clearing, That is the one thing I learned in all the training classes I went to, is that a shorter rifle or a shorter object is better. Pistols aren't bad for that reason. However, there's an instant stop with a 5.56, if you know what I mean, when you hit the right places. It's just because there's a lot of energy right there. That's the trade-off with using a pistol caliber, even when you use a pistol caliber carbine, is with a 16-inch barrel or say like an 8-inch barrel or a 10-inch barrel or whatever. They're different ones I've seen. But what you're getting is you're getting a little more velocity out of that, so there's a little trade-off there. You're getting a little more energy. It's also cool that you can go into some situation like that and only have one ammo source, meaning same magazines work in your sidearm as they do your primary. That's great for that stuff, but in all honesty, as hard as I've trained, and I've trained fairly hard, I wouldn't say like to the level of being total badass. I can do it. That's the best way I could put that. I don't like doing it. It's definitely not my calling. Anyway, I've never ran through more than one or two mags. So in a house or a clearing drill where you're going through, maybe it's the size of the complexes I've done the training in, but it's also the amount of accurate fire you're trying to put down. If you're clearing a house or you're clearing a building and there are good guys in there, which is why you train for this stuff, is you don't want to hit the good guys. So you're not just throwing rounds, round after round after round after round. You're not just trying to kill every target you see. You're being very selective. So you're being very selective about where your hits are and how many hits you're getting, because you're wanting to make sure you're minimizing the damage to the surroundings, as well as taking out just the threats. So that makes sense. I question with this AK, the length that I've seen them in makes them not good for that. They're great introductions to the AK platform for new shooters who only have an AR-15. They're also great ones for people like me who are a little more advanced, but don't want to stock a ton of ammunition of different calibers. I like having 5.56 rifles for that reason. I have several 5.56 rifles because the caliber is great. It's still fairly inexpensive to shoot in a session. It's light on recoil for new shooters if you're trying to get them used to shooting, and you don't want them to like freak out, but they're ready to graduate from like a 22 to something a little bit stronger. There's where you go. It is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It is America's caliber. It is America's round. So it makes sense. As AKs start getting more popular, and they are becoming really popular because everybody's had the AR. Now they're looking for something different, but does something different and has some. It's different. That's the best way to put it. Some of us have always been the AK guy. The AR has its place, and I've said it. It is America's rifle. Now we have America's Russian uncle landing. He's originally from Russia, but he's decided to be Americanized, become an American citizen. Kalashnikov USA says that they're going to release the 5.56 AK also, and there's hopes that Kalashnikov USA can bring the AK-12, which is what the Russians are using right now, I believe. Yeah, the AK-12 is what they're currently issuing. The AK-15 is the 7.62 version of it, and they have like an AK-17 or something that's a 5.56 version of it for export before the Russian stuff to where we can't ever get it here. But Kalashnikov USA, being of like mind and capable of seeing one and replicating it, has found a way that this may be an American thing too. So, just some ideas about the 5.56 AKs, the multi-caliber AKs. There's 6.5 Grendels AKs. I'm a big fan of the 5.45. I wish it would have gotten way more popular in the United States. The Russians were onto something there. That said, there's a place for every caliber in the AK platform. I'm happy to see AKs become more ubiquitous as the AR-15. Used to be that the AK was the what the weird uncle had, who was a little bit of a prepper, but nowadays it's becoming so popular honestly because of video games, I think, and because the culture's changed. I think it's great. I can't wait to see kids out doing cool stuff and training and keeping the sport alive, keeping the traditions alive, and keeping the world tactical, especially New Mexico. Like, share, subscribe, be great.